Let's turn now to Sadiqa Reynolds. She is the CEO of Perception Institute, a think tank focused on finding solutions to reduce inequities affecting marginalized people. She is also an attorney and a former judge. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So more discrepancies and now more disputed and unseen video in the Tyre Nichols case. What is your reaction to the latest in this Nichols case?
I think the Nichols case is just an example of what's happening across the country. Police have got to be stopped. That's the bottom line. There is so much discrimination because there have really been absolutely no consequences for killing black people in America. And so we are going to see reports like this. We're going to see those kinds of inconsistencies where you have someone who's beat to death and no one mentions that there was any sort of altercation in any kind of report. That's not just happening there, it's happening in Louisville, it's happening across the country. And so until we see consequences, we just won't see change.
Well, now we have these DOJ investigations into both the Tyre Nichols and the Breonna Taylor cases, the one you mentioned in Louisville. What does it mean for a department to be investigated by the DOJ? And how can police departments implement change while under federal investigation?
Well, I think the Department of Justice comes in when they believe that there are civil rights violations that need to be addressed at their level. And so I think there were enough things happening in Louisville, Kentucky, and Memphis, and other communities across the country that the Department of Justice decided to go in and investigate. And so once they do that, and we see it now in Louisville, they've issued findings. Those findings then, in our case in Louisville has agreed to a consent decree. So there will be some negotiations, I guess, about what they agree to do. The Department of Justice has issued about 36, I think exactly 36 recommendations. At some point, I guess there will be an RFP that will be put out for a monitor. That is some independent organization that will come into the city and work with the police department, definitely also working with the community as well to ensure that things are actually changing. It's going to be a very long process. We have been suffering for a long time in Louisville, and Black people across this country have really been suffering for quite a while, and our cries have really gone unheard, unnoticed, and unresponded to. So, the work is urgent, but it won't happen tomorrow. The fixes will not be in 24 hours. It's just not going to work that way, unfortunately.
And we heard in a story, lessons learned, any positive changes or reforms of note anywhere in the United States right now, or any police departments that that have made a difference or have actively trying to make a difference?
I have to tell you, the number one thing that I think is going to change departments is consequences. When you see a police officer held accountable for the murder of George Floyd, when you begin to see those things happen, those are the departments that are actually going to be able to change. They are going to be the ones that ultimately are better trained and more and able to see the humanity in the people that they are supposed to be serving and protecting. Because the reality is, without consequences, the behavior just continues. This is not just a situation where we can go in with some kind of anti-bias training and think that's going to be enough for police. That's not enough. They literally have to be able to retrain their minds. We also have to dig through the weeds on this one. We've got to figure out some of the officers who are listed in these complaints. If you're thinking about officers who, in Louisville's case, we have an officer who beat a woman in the face with a flashlight, an officer who put his foot on a woman's neck. Those kinds of things, we need to know what happened with the officer. What happened with the supervisor that information was reported to when they did nothing? We have a long history of failing to respond when officers hurt or kill Black people in this country, and it has to stop.
Sadiqa Reynolds, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight.